All right, so still here at DCENTRAL in Miami, we are diving in deep on a lot of projects around Metaverse, NFT, all that good stuff. But I thought, hey, let's bring some Bitcoin love to you guys. So we're going to do just that. My name is Paul Barron. Welcome back into Tech Path. Joining me today is, of course, Mr. Tom Crown.
Thank you for having me.
You guys have seen him out there on YouTube. If you haven't checked out his channel, go to Tom Crown. Check it out. Your last video, I was looking at this, the FTX hack. That was a good one.
Yeah, I mean, that's been the focus of the space for, we ran out of drama and we found it. We weren't really happy until we found it. But
there's plenty of drama now. Tom, I want to get into something that you and I were talking about off camera, and that is this whole aspect of Bitcoin maxis that are not Bitcoin maxis. So I consider myself, that's my number one position.
Yep.
I talk about Bitcoin probably more so than any other project out there. Token. For you, when you look at kind of the evolution of where crypto has come, Bitcoin always seems to be that safe haven. Right now, within the market where we are today, what are some of the things when you talk to people on the street or on your own channel that you're trying to deliver for, the power of Bitcoin? Because a lot of people still diss it in the sense that it's not the end-all, be-all. So where do you come back on that?
I get a lot of flack for it now. I've noticed in the last few years a disconnect from Bitcoin in general.
Yeah.
The newer retail, they don't see the value. They say it's a boomer coin or something. I don't know. And I think what it is it isn't as exciting for them. They're not seeing flashy new promises. And Bitcoin has never really been a promise. Like it's always been a little fringe, a little out there. I think we're at the point now where we're past the collapse. The collapse meaning like the whole project falling apart. And we saw the cypherpunks write about it. This is either going to go, take over the world, or it's going to collapse. And I think we're kind of past that. But it doesn't have the bells and whistles of everything else.
The interesting thing behind this, and this is something that as I dive into Bitcoin even deeper, in the early days of Bitcoin, we didn't get a chance to see a lot of the Lightning connection. We definitely didn't get a chance to see all of the different innovation that's coming into Bitcoin now as a whole. And this year seems to have been, I would say, maybe one of the most innovative years yet. A lot of startups coming into Bitcoin that are building on Lightning and building on infrastructure within the Bitcoin network.
Yes.
And I think that is pretty exciting in the sense of where it's going to go in the next year or two, especially on the next halving. When you look at, is there anything really exciting you around Bitcoin innovation right now?
Well, you said it, Lightning. Lightning Network. What was the last upgrade we had? Segwit, right? Oh, thank God those days are over. But Lightning, it's under the radar. And like I said again, like retail, not really into it. They don't really get it. Lightning does make that proposition of those promises that other things are making. And I was actually talking to someone else earlier, and they were saying, "What do you think about Lightning? What is it?" They weren't convinced, and I said, "It's not perfect. It's not in its perfect state.
Sure.
And assuming that it trends that way and eventually is in its perfected state, where it's stable and secure, and you feel just as confident doing transactions, on chain as on Lightning, it really does it kind of ruins the proposition of value for a lot of other projects. I feel, but I said as well, I don't think that it means there's no room for anything else. There's a spectrum of tasks that we want decentralized and products, and I don't know, Bitcoin doesn't have to fulfill all of them. We can have other space, but it really branches out what it's capable of, and I think probably won't be too kind to some projects.
Yeah, well, I think the scenario that we're faced with right now, especially with Bitcoin, is that you have the OGs that, listen, they bought in under $100. Of course they're going to be all in on Bitcoin. Then you have kind of this next gen coming into Bitcoin. Then you have the guys that bought in the top but are still convinced this is the future. So they're just holding and kind of...
We've all been there, right?
So the interesting thing to me about Bitcoin is that not only the innovation starting to pick up, but then I step back and I think, all right, 5 years from today, we look at Bitcoin, we may look at this as digital gold or the evolution of what stored value might be, but we also might be seeing another potential Bitcoin. I won't say Bitcoin per se, but from the technology advancements that we're seeing already, the likelihood is we're going to see a lot of demand, a lot of mass adoption coming our way, and then maybe a project or two that could be real proof of work that could still kind of flank Bitcoin and be something in adjacent to it. when you think about that and then step back and say, all right, CBDC, digital dollar, you got the New York Fed going at it, you've got all these different macro pressures pushing to the CBDC side. You look at maybe Bitcoin being the digital gold of the future, and then maybe other projects that aren't quite there yet. Could be Ethereum, could be not, could be Ethereum. How do you think this plays out in the next 5 years, especially on the digital dollar side?
Well, how do I want it to play out,
Yeah.
or how do I think? Very different, of course. To go back to some of what you were saying, kind of defining Bitcoin is a topic I love talking about, because we talk about store value or currency, or we have these things, and in the cryptocurrency fashion, we kind of struggle to anchor it to reality because we don't have apt comparisons. Maybe if you're familiar with BitTorrent, the pirating of videos and things, like that's maybe the closest thing we have to crypto, that we know what it is.
Exactly.
And I don't think many people really know how that works. It's just another decentralized network. And I love talking about it because people want to put it in these categories. And I propose, well, this is a new thing. And so maybe it doesn't fit the language we have. Maybe there's words we have to develop for what Bitcoin is. It doesn't have to be just a store of value or just a currency. It can be a new, unique thing that has its own purpose.
Right on.
And God, who knows where that's going to take it? That has infinite applications. I would like to see over the next 5 years more countries follow suit, with like El Salvador using some kind of Bitcoin reserve or something like that. I want to see. It would bring a lot of pain, but some kind of Forex trouble, which we've seen over the last year, where countries are looking for assets to collateralize and they pick Bitcoin. That's what I would like to see.
Russia's already started to kind of slide into that right now, with them actually somewhat creating an official aspect around what Bitcoin and in general blockchain might be within a major G20 country. This is something I talk about on the channel often, is whether or not G20s are going to be the next level, or if we're going to see, the El Salvador level countries kind of just peck away at the traditional dollar as the reserve and kind of change that dynamic.
I think that's what's exciting, is I do believe it's going to come, and I hate saying this because it implies maybe they're lesser or bad, but bottom up.
Yeah.
It's going to be the ones that have a need for it.
You get a lot of adoption there because of mobile. You get a lot of ability because the dollar reserve versus typically their country currency. Typically there's a deflationary scenario that plays into it, so that's big. So I think innovation, obviously I think the shift of the dollar away from the monetary asset that is the standard. Yeah. And listen, all monetary systems fail. It's just a matter of
history has proven.
Yeah, we've been at this for a while. Yeah. So the likelihood, I think we're going to see some pretty interesting stuff. Let's talk about the charts, because you chart a lot.
I'm obsessed.
I know you're on Market Cypher too, right?
I love Market Cypher. Yeah. I work with them. I've used it for years. They sponsor my channel now, but it just cool. It's an indicator. It's a tool.
Well, yeah, and I think you need a lot of different tools out there.
Absolutely.
When you look at charting right now, and some of the traditional things that most traders and or early guys that are maybe getting into Bitcoin and they're just trying to figure out, where do I buy right now? Is there anything that you talk about on your channel that is, hey, this is a particular tactic that I really follow? I kind of, for the average Joe, out there, what would you say if you're just getting into charting?
Absolutely. I think you need to acknowledge the reality first. This is not a magic bullet. It's not future telling. It's very akin to professional gambling. Yeah. Poker playing. You can say, oh, well, you win because you get the best cards. That's really not reality. Yeah. They win because they have a strategy. Yeah. They know the odds. They know what they're doing, and they know how to bet. And I don't, so I'm not going to speak too much to that. But that's the closest comparison. It's not telling you the future. You're not going to just win. In fact, a really good trader knows they won't just win. Yeah, exactly. That's part of your plan. So that is the advice I give everyone, is it's all about making a plan, addressing kind of probability, risk to reward, and then executing it. And that can be the hard part.
Well, yeah, you're right. Because a strategy, typically when you're flying and you're starting to see 10% gain, 12% gain, then you set a stop in that's a little less, maybe too greedy, or you go a little long, or you short something, you get stopped out too quick. I mean, there's a lot of different angles on this that the market is really playing into. We get a chance to cover it some with our own guys that come in and talk charts. I'd love to get you on the show one day.
Absolutely.
I'd love to kind of chop it up in terms of, especially Bitcoin and Ethereum, because I think those are the ones that really have some opportunity for gains here pretty soon. Anyway, if you guys have not checked out Tom Crown, make sure and go to his YouTube channel. We're going to show that to you. Subscribe and hit him up and tell him we sent you. And hopefully that'll help you guys out.
Thank you for having me on, Paul. It's great to meet you.
Yeah.
We have a lot more to talk about, I feel.
For sure.